Apart from ethical considerations, you also need to worry about being in the right problem space, about your ability to ask the right questions. In a very real sense, consulting is about asking questions and about providing answers to these questions. Depending on the situation, you might ask various types of questions. We're going to take the position that from a quantitative perspective, there's really three types of questions. You have your analytics questions, you have your data science questions, and you have your quantitative methods questions. An analytics question could be something as simple as, well, measuring how many clicks a specific link got. From a data science perspective, it's a little bit more complex than that. You might ask a question along the lines of, if you know historically when people click on links or how often they click on links, can you predict how many people from Winnipeg will take a look at a specific page on your website within the next 3 hours? Whereas analytics type questions ask you to basically count things. Data science-like questions are asking whether you could use historical patterns to make predictions. In my vision of quantitative methods, you would be making predictions, yes, but not necessarily based on historical data. So you might build a model from first principles, the physics of the situation, to try to help you figure out what could be happening next. For instance, if you thought there was a correlation between the temperature in Winnipeg and whether or not people click on the links in your website, then you might want to come up with a model that could make the prediction how many people will access a page in the next week, say, by trying to predict the weather instead. Analytics models don't usually predict or explain anything. They just report on the data, which is itself meant to represent the situation. A data mining or data science model tends to be predictive, but not necessarily explanatory. It'll show you the existence of connections, of correlations, of links, but it won't tell you why the connections exist. In a quantitative method model, you are starting by assuming that you know what the links are, what the connections are, which presumably means that you have an idea as to why these connections exist. And then you will try to explore the consequences of the existence of these connections or these links. Here I'm going to give you a piece of advice which I suspect might turn out to be the single most important piece of advice you will receive in your quantitative career. Not every situation calls for analytics, for data science, for statistical analysis, for quantitative methods. You need to identify instances where people are asking for more out of the data than can actually be given. And you need to be able to tell your clients early on when they are in this situation. If you cannot ask the right questions of the data, of the client, of the situation, your project is doomed from the start. If you don't know what questions you're trying to answer, you're going to be just doing stuff willy-nilly for the sake of doing something. You will not be navigating towards an end goal. You will not reach an end goal. If you're trying to help a client, you need questions to answer, and questions that can be answered by the types of methods and skills that you have at your disposal, and answers that will be recognized as answers. How many clicks did this link get? That is a question that is easily answerable if you have a data set of clicks. It might not be a question that is actually the question the client wants answered. So very often we end up in the situation where we will ask the kinds of questions that we can answer with the data, but the answer might not actually be useful. We'd say in this case that the insight that we glean from the situation is not actionable. So you want to ask questions that have actionable answers.